The message came in the middle of the day. A giant Torcan ship appeared in Earth's orbit without warning. It was black, sharp, and shaped like a spear. It blocked the sun over several cities, casting a long shadow across the planet. People everywhere stopped and stared at the sky. The message played in every language. "We are the Torcan Empire." A voice said, "You have been observed. You are weak. You will now surrender. Your weapons will be turned off. Your leaders will kneel, refuse, and Earth will be destroyed." It was not the first time the Torcans had done this. They had destroyed over 50 civilizations across the galaxy. Some tried to resist, some tried to talk. None had survived. Earth had only hours to respond. In a hidden base under Antarctica, Earth's council met. The top generals, scientists, and leaders gathered around a large round table. Most expected a debate. Most expected panic. Instead, the head of the Defense Council stood and spoke calmly. "We already knew they were coming," she said. "The Torcans have been moving this way for years. That's why we built it." A screen turned on. It showed a single ship floating in a black hangar. The ship looked simple. It had no cannons, no missile bays. No one would call it powerful just by looking at it. It was painted gray, with a name across its hull, the Dauntless. Only one ship, a general asked. "They sent an armada, and we respond with this?" The defense chief nodded. Double quotes, "Yes. One is enough." The others in the room looked at each other, confused. Someone asked, "Who's the captain?" "He volunteered," the defense chief said. From the shadows, a man stepped forward. His hair was short and dark, his uniform plain. His name was Commander Mason. He looked calm, almost quiet, like a man who didn't raise his voice unless he had to. No medals, no long speeches, just a nod, and a single bag in his hand. The council watched as he walked out, ready to board the ship. One ship, one mission. To stop an empire. On the Torcan command vessel, high above Earth. Admiral Sarek watched Earth's reply with amusement. "A single ship," he said, laughing. "Is this some kind of message? They mock us." He turned to his officers. "Destroy it. Show them what we do to fools." But before they could fire, something happened. The Dauntless vanished from their screens. No explosion, no debris. Just gone. "Where is it?" Sarek shouted. "Unknown." One of the officers replied, confused. "It was here. Now it's not. We lost all signals." Across the Torcan fleet, sensors scrambled to locate the small human vessel. It was impossible for a ship to disappear so quickly without cloaking. Even the Torcans didn't have that kind of technology. Admiral Sarek narrowed his eyes. "Find it." But they would and single quotes T. Inside the Dauntless. Mason stood at the center of a dimly lit bridge. Around him, 12 crew members worked at their stations. The ship was quiet, no engine noise, no alarms. Just screens showing maps, data, and numbers changing every second. "Status?" Mason asked. "We're inside their network," said a woman. "At the console. Full ghost mode. They can't see us." Mason nodded. The Dauntless was not a warship. It didn't have railguns or laser batteries. It didn't need them. It was built as a digital phantom, a ship designed to enter enemy systems, break them apart from the inside, and vanish before anyone knew what happened. Its weapons were not metal or fire. Its weapons were code, viruses, and AI tools that could shut down entire fleets with a whisper. Mason looked at the screen. "We begin now." Back in space, the Torcan ships started acting strange. One frigate turned off its lights. Another began to spin slowly in place. A third lost all contact with the fleet. Then 10 more followed. Admiral Sarek barked orders. "Regain control of the grid, reset communications, seal the system." But nothing worked. His officers looked confused and frightened. "It's like something is crawling through the fleet." One of them said, "Like a virus." The Admiral's eyes widened. "No, they cannot." Before he finished speaking, the lights went out. Not just on his ship, but on every ship in the system. The entire Torcan fleet went dark. Only emergency lights flickered. Then a voice came through. Every speaker, every screen, every helmet, a human voice. "We warned you. Earth does not kneel." Silence followed. Admiral Sarek felt a cold chill run down his back. He had led invasions on 5 worlds. He had crushed cities and burned continents. But now, for the first time, he felt fear. He turned to his officers. "Get us out of here. All ships retreat." No response from the fleet, they answered. "We've lost control." He stared at the screen. One human ship. That was all. On Earth. The people watched the sky. The shadow of the Torkin ship still hung overhead. But slowly, something changed. Small lights began falling from the sky. Pieces of metal. Shattered panels. Dead drones. The Torkin ship was not firing. It was breaking apart. Bit by bit. No one fired a shot. No explosion from Earth. It was like the enemy was falling to pieces by itself. In homes and cities, people whispered the same question. What did we send? In the hidden base, the council received a message, a short one, from Commander Mason. Phase 1 complete. The defense chief smiled. The world was quiet. But for the first time in human history, they had silenced an empire with nothing more than one ship and a plan, and it had only just begun. The Torkin fleet was frozen in confusion. Their ships, once proud and strong, now floated in silence. Lights were dim, screens blinked without meaning, engines refused to respond. Across the entire armada, crew members tried to understand what was happening. Admiral Sarek stood in the center of the command deck, staring at a blank screen. He had never seen anything like this. "Status?" he barked. One officer struggled to answer. "Sir, our sensors are offline. Weapon systems are locked. Internal comms work. But anything outside our ship is dead." Sarek clenched his jaw. "How many ships are affected?" The officer shook his head. "All of them, sir." Sarek didn't believe it. It had to be a trick. A malfunction. Maybe Earth had released a signal, some kind of pulse. But the human ship didn't have weapons. At least, not the kind the Empire expected. He turned to another officer. "Find that ship. I want eyes on it." After a moment of silence, the officer replied in a low voice, "We can't find it." "What do you mean, you can't find it?" "It's not on radar. Not on visuals. It just vanished." Admiral Sarek stared at the center of the room. For the first time in years, he didn't know what to do. Inside the Dauntless, the bridge was quiet but focused. Commander Mason stood behind the main console, his eyes on the floating map of the Torkin fleet. "They're blind," said Aaron, the ship's systems expert. "We've taken out their fleet network. Every ship is now a separate piece, no connection." "Good," Mason said. "Start the sweep. Disable one ship at a time. Begin with the destroyers." Aaron's fingers moved across the screen, sending override signals now. In front of them, small red dots began to blink. Each red dot was a Torkin ship going dark, one by one. Mason didn't smile. He didn't celebrate. This wasn't a game. This was war. And war had to be won with control, not emotion. He looked at the crew around him, 12 people. Each one trained for this mission, each one handpicked. Earth had prepared for this moment for years. They weren't here to destroy. They were here to disable an empire. And they were doing it perfectly. Back on the Torkin fleet, confusion turned into fear. Captain Vurek, commander of the warship Iron Reach, paced across his control room. His crew tried to reboot systems, but every attempt failed. The screen showed nothing but static. Weapons didn't respond. Engines refused to warm up. Then something strange happened. The ship's doors began opening and closing on their own. Hall lights flickered in a strange rhythm. Voice whispered through the air vents, "We are inside." Vurek froze. "Who said that?" No one answered. "We are inside," the voice said again. "You should not have come." The crew stared at each other in panic. Then the engines shut off completely. The Iron Reach began to drift. No one had touched a button. Captain Vurek looked at the main screen. It turned on by itself, and there, for just a moment, he saw the human ship. The Dauntless floated quietly in space, its surface glowing with soft blue lights. No weapons, no armor, no fear. Then it vanished again. Admiral Sarek had enough. He slammed his fist against the console. "Board that ship," He growled. I don't care how. Send a squad. Get inside. Find the humans. Bring me the captain. Yes, sir. Minutes later, a Torkin shuttle launched toward where the signal from the Dauntless had last been seen. It was a brave squad of 10 Torkin soldiers, elite troops. They had fought on many planets and survived terrible battles. They believed no one could stop them. They reached the ship and docked. No resistance, no defense. They stepped inside. And found nothing. The hallways were empty. Lights low. The air was cold, but breathable. One of the soldiers touched the wall. It moved, not like metal. It was smooth and flexible, like it was alive. The ship didn't feel like a machine. It felt like it was watching them. They moved forward, weapons ready. Suddenly, doors closed behind them. Lights went off. The walls changed color. And the voice came again. You should not be here. The soldiers opened fire in panic, shooting at everything, but their bullets vanished into the walls. The floor began to move under them, gently, like they were being carried, one by one. They were separated, guided into different parts of the ship. None of them saw each other again. Outside, the Torkin shuttle detached and returned. But it carried no one. Inside the Dauntless, the Torkin boarding team had been trapped, not killed. They were placed in stasis chambers, sleeping quietly. Mason watched the process from the bridge. Non-lethal capture successful, Aaron said. Mason nodded. Send a message to the fleet. Aaron pressed a button. All Torkin screens lit up. This time, the voice was clear and direct. You sent an empire to destroy one world. That was your first mistake. You brought your pride. We brought precision. This is not your battlefield anymore. We control the system now. Stand down, or you will watch your own fleet turn against you. Across the Torkin ships, panic rose. Some commanders ordered shields up. Others tried to restart systems. But nothing worked. One cruiser fired its cannons toward where the Dauntless had last been seen. The blast went straight into another Torkin ship nearby, tearing a hole through it. The fleet was blind, and now it was attacking itself. Admiral Sarek stood frozen. He couldn't breathe. He had fought for decades. He had destroyed planets. But now, he was losing everything without a single real battle. No human ship should have done this, and yet it was happening. On Earth, people watched in wonder. Satellites showed Torkin ships spinning out of control. No human forces had moved. No missiles had launched, and yet the enemy was falling. The Defense Council received another message. From Mason. Phase to complete. The Chief of Defense stared at the screen. What is Phase 3? She asked quietly. No one answered. Only the stars above moved, and in their silence, the world began to understand. The war was not going to be fought. It was going to be ended by a ship no one could stop. The Torkin fleet was breaking, not because of fire or explosions, but because of silence. Their ships floated like blind giants in space, unable to speak to each other, unable to move in formation. One by one, their systems continued shutting down. Lights dimmed, engines cooled, weapons locked themselves, and through it all, the human ship remained unseen. The Dauntless was like a ghost. It appeared only for seconds, then vanished. Its engines made no sound. Its trail left nothing behind. The Torkins could not track it, could not shoot it, and could not stop it. Admiral Sarek stood on his command deck, staring at a useless screen. Nothing made sense anymore. His empire had crushed over 50 planets. They had defeated rebel forces, pirate groups, and advanced civilizations. But now, they were falling apart in the face of a single ship. Report, he demanded. One of his officers answered, voice shaking. More systems are failing. Our shield controls have been locked. Life support is still working, but backup power is draining faster than normal. Where's the human ship? No sign of it. It comes and goes too fast. Sarek narrowed his eyes. No ship moves like that. Another officer spoke. It is not moving. It is jumping, short micro jumps, within the system. It uses something we don't understand. Sarek turned away. He was beginning to understand something else the humans had prepared for. This was not luck. This was design. They had not built a warship. They had built a tool for breaking empires. Inside the Dauntless, the crew worked with calm focus. Everyone had a task, and everyone knew what came next. Commander Mason stood at the front of the bridge. The screen in front of him showed the Torkin fleet like pieces on a game board. "We are in position," said Aaron. "All communication towers are mapped. We can take down their command grid in 30 seconds. Mason gave a slow nod. "Proceed." The lights across the bridge dimmed for a moment. Then the screen showed new symbols. Red circles surrounded Torkin command stations, relay ships, and satellites. One by one, the circles blinked and turned black. The Torkin Empire's communication network had just been erased. No more signals. No more orders. The Empire had gone silent. Across the Torkin fleet, panic spread like fire. Ships drifted apart. Officers shouted orders no one could hear. Some commanders thought it was a trap. Others believed they had been betrayed by their own. And then something worse happened. Weapons turned on without commands. Missile bays opened. Targeting systems lit up. But they did not aim at the humans. They aimed at other Torkin ships. In the middle of the chaos, a cruiser named Wrath of the Crown fired two torpedoes. The blast hit a nearby dreadnought, tearing through its side. The dreadnought returned fire without knowing who had attacked. Now the fleet was fighting itself. Admiral Sarek screamed across the deck. "Shut down all weapons. Lock them out. Order. Cease fire." But it was no use. They had lost control. Back on Earth, people watched from the safety of distance. Screens showed Torkin ships blinking, burning, or crashing into each other. No human ship had fired a single shot. Inside Earth's defense bunker, the Council remained silent as the data streamed in. The defense chief leaned forward and spoke quietly. "Is this really happening?" One of the analysts nodded. Double quotes, "Yes, they're tearing themselves apart." Another message arrived from the Dauntless. Phase 3 complete. In the darkness of space, the Dauntless hovered behind the remains of a wrecked Torkin ship. The crew did not celebrate. This was only part of the plan. Commander Mason stepped into the strategy room. A full holographic map of the Torkin Empire appeared before him. It showed planets, military outposts, and important routes. He pointed to a planet near the center. "This is the command world. We move now." One of the officers raised a hand. "It's heavily guarded." "Not anymore." Mason replied. He tapped the screen. A line of code appeared, glowing bright. It was a special tool called the Blackroot Protocol. It was the last part of Earth's secret program, designed not just to destroy machines, but to rewrite them with a single command. Blackroot could change the way ships thought, how stations operated, and how systems obeyed their orders. Once activated, the Torkin Empire would no longer control its own machines. Mason gave the order. "Send the seed." Aaron nodded. "Blackroot is moving." On the Torkin throne world, alarms began to ring. Palace guards rushed through metal halls, protecting the Emperor. High above the planet, a weapons station called the Sun Lance began warming up. It was the most powerful tool in the Empire, a solar cannon that could burn a city from orbit. The Emperor had given the order, "Target the human ship," he shouted. The station locked onto a signal from the Dauntless, but the moment they tried to fire, the system froze. The cannon's direction changed. Now it pointed downward toward the planet itself. "Stop the firing sequence." The station commander shouted. "We can't," one of his engineers said. "The system is not responding. It's locked in. Someone is controlling it from the outside." The countdown began. 10 seconds. 9, 8. At the last second, the core was shut down manually. A brave technician destroyed the power relay to save the planet. The Sun Lance survived, but the Emperor's pride did not. He now knew the truth. The humans were inside everything. Meanwhile, across the Empire, slave colonies suddenly went dark only to the Torkins. The humans had blocked all signals, but sent messages directly to the enslaved. Screens turned on in secret mines and crowded factories. The messages were short. "You are free now. The Empire can no longer reach you. Stand together." And they did, on dozens of worlds. The workers stood up. Torkin officers tried to resist, but their weapons didn't work. The same system that once controlled ships now disabled handguns, closed prison doors, and erased security codes. The rebellions had begun, and the Empire was not ready. Back on the Dauntless, Mason watched the progress from his chair. The ship floated quietly. It had never needed to fire. It only needed to guide the fall. All fleets disconnected, said Aaron. Rebellions rising on 36 worlds. Command world systems are now under Blackroot. Mason said nothing for a moment. Then he gave a calm order broadcast. The crew opened a signal to the galaxy. The final message was ready. In the cold black of space, the great Torkin fleet was no longer a fleet. It had no shape, no order. Ships floated alone, broken and blind. Some crashed into each other. Others spun. Out of control. The mighty Empire had come to Earth with pride and power. But now, its ships were quiet and lost, and all of it had been caused by one small ship. The Dauntless moved through the wreckage like a shadow. It never stopped. It never slowed. No one could see it, unless it wanted to be seen. Inside, Commander Mason stood at the center of the bridge. The screen before him showed the full picture: every damaged ship, every disabled station, every panicked signal. "We are close," said Aaron. "One more command, and the fleet will shut down completely." Mason looked at the numbers on the screen. Thousands of lives were on those ships: soldiers, officers, engineers. Most of them had never set foot on Earth. "We disable," he said quietly. "We do not destroy." "Yes, sir," Aaron replied. The crew understood. This mission was never about revenge. It was about stopping an empire before it could hurt anyone else. On the Torkin flagship, Admiral Sarek tried to remain calm, but his hands were shaking. Every screen showed failure. Ship after ship stopped answering his calls. The main fleet was now useless. The command chain had broken. The AI systems were no longer obeying Torkin orders. One officer stood up from his station. "Sir, we should retreat. If we can reach the edge of the system, we may be able to escape." Sarek stared at him. "And go where?" he asked. "What happens when the humans follow?" "We run, and they turn off every system we have. There's no hiding from a weapon like this." He stepped closer to the central console. "They came with one ship. We brought an empire. And still, they beat us," a younger officer whispered. "It wasn't just the ship. It was the plan." Sarek said nothing. He knew the officer was right. This wasn't just a battle. This was a quiet war, built on strategy, timing, and patience. The humans had watched, waited, and struck at the perfect moment. And now, the empire was falling. Near the outer line of the Torkin fleet, one last cruiser tried to escape. Its captain, a bold woman named Revik, had not lost hope yet. She shouted orders to her crew: "Power the engines, load manual controls. We're not staying here to die." Her engineers worked fast. They bypassed the AI systems and used old systems from before the Empire fully automated its ships. Finally, the engines came back online. "We have power," the pilot said. Revik smiled. "Good, take us out." The cruiser began to move. But after 5 seconds, the lights flickered. The engine stopped. On the screen, a line of code appeared. "This vessel has been neutralized by Earth Command." And then, without sound, every door on the ship sealed. Revik stared at the message. They didn't even need to be near us. Her ship had not been touched. No damage, no boarding. And still, it had been taken. She sat down in her chair. "There's no war to fight anymore," she whispered. Back on the Dauntless, the final pieces were in place. Mason stood in the strategy room with his crew. The map of the Torkin Empire showed red marks on almost every key point: fleet command, communications, weapons, transport, and supply. "We have shut down 80% of their military," Aaron reported. "The rest are isolated. No backup. No connection to the capital." Another officer spoke. "Civilian systems are untouched. Food, water, medicine, they're all still working." Mason nodded. "Good. No more pain than necessary." The plan had worked perfectly. The Empire could not fight back. It could not even move. The fleet had not been destroyed. It had been broken. And now, it was time to finish it. Send Blackroot to the Central Command Corps, Mason said. Yes, Commander. Blackroot. The advanced Earth virus began its final move. It would not destroy anything. Instead, it would rewrite. Every system that once served the Torcan Empire would now stop responding to cruelty. No ship could launch against a peaceful world. No station could be used to enslave. The machines would only protect life, not take it, on the throne world of the Torcans. The Emperor sat in silence. His palace was quiet. Outside, no ships flew. No guards spoke. He had ordered the Sun Lance to fire. It had failed. He had called for his admirals. They had gone dark. He had tried to activate the ancient codes of war. But the screens only showed one message. You have no power here. The Emperor stood up. He walked to the tall window of his throne room and looked at the sky. It was full of stars, and one of them, he knew, was a human ship. He had never feared Earth. He had called them weak, slow, behind in technology, but now he understood. The humans had built their weapon not from rage but from reason. They had not come to conquer. They had come to make sure no one else would. And they had succeeded. In a hidden bunker on Earth. The Defense Council watched the final report. The Torcan fleet was done. The Empire's weapons were locked. Slave worlds were rising. Rebellions were spreading with hope, not fire. The Chief of Defense turned to her screen. A message from the Dauntless waited. Phase 4 complete. Fleet neutralized. No lives taken unless forced. Empire command now in our hands. She let out a breath. Open broadcast. She said. Across Earth and across the stars. The screen lit up. Commander Mason appeared. Calm as always. He looked directly into the camera and spoke. People of the galaxy, he said, the Torcan Empire has fallen. They were not defeated by fire, but by understanding. Earth did not bring war. We brought the end of it. We are not here to rule. We are not here to claim. We are only here to remind you that no empire is too big. No system is too strong. If you build on fear, it will fall. He paused. Then he gave one final line. Humanity does not need armies, just reasons. The message ended, and across the stars, silence fell again. But this time, it was the silence of freedom. Emperor Volok sat on his throne, surrounded by cold metal walls and glowing screens. The great hall of his palace was quiet, but his mind was loud with fear and anger. He had been the ruler of the Torcan Empire. For over 30 years, he had led countless wars. He had crushed rebellions. He had been proud and certain of his power. But now, everything was different. The empire was falling apart. His fleet was lost. His weapons were broken. His people were afraid. He slammed his fist on the armrest of his throne. They think they can take my empire with one ship, he growled. This is an insult. The emperor rose and walked to the window. Outside, the stars shone cold and distant. He thought of Earth, that small blue planet, and the single ship that had shattered his great armada. His generals stood behind him, silent and afraid. One of them spoke, voice trembling. Your Majesty, we can still use the Sun Lance, the planet killer. We can destroy them. Volok turned sharply. Yes, use it now. Show them our strength. Orders went out immediately. The Sun Lance was a massive weapons station orbiting the Emperor's world. It focused the power of a star into a beam that could burn cities and fleets alike. Technicians hurried to prepare it, but when they tried to fire, nothing happened. The control panel was dead. No response. The Emperor paced the floor, furious. Fix it now. Engineers worked desperately. Then, the impossible occurred. The Sun Lance turned its beam inward, towards the planet itself. Alarms screamed. No. Stop it, the Emperor yelled. But the weapon would not stop. The engineers tried everything. But the systems were locked. Someone had taken control, and it was not the Torcans. Far away, in a secret control room on the Dauntless, Commander Mason watched the Sun Lance's failure on his screen. Aaron, the ship's systems expert, smiled. Blackroot reached their weapon control. She said, it rewired the entire station. It cannot be used to hurt anyone now. Mason nodded. We must be careful, he said. The Empire will try to strike back with anything left. Back on the Emperor's world, the palace was in chaos. Messages poured in. Slave colonies were rising up. Ships were going dark. Rebellions were spreading like wildfire. Valak's face grew pale. The Empire was losing control. On many Torcan worlds, the slaves had finally received the human messages. In mines, factories, and cities. Small screens lit up with a simple sentence: "You are free." For years, these slaves had lived in fear and pain. Now, hope filled their hearts. On one mining world, a young woman named Lyra looked at the screen. Her hands were rough and tired from work. She had lost family to the Empire's cruelty. But now, she felt something new. Freedom, she whispered. She gathered others. "Tonight, we stand," she said. "No more chains, no more fear." They prepared quietly. In cities, the same words spread. Groups formed. They took control of small arms. They moved carefully. Their goal was not to destroy, but to claim the right to live. The Torcan military tried to stop the rebellions, but the Blackroot virus spread into their weapons and controls. No gunfire. No. Doors stayed locked. Torcans were trapped by their own machines. Valak ordered soldiers to suppress the uprisings, but many soldiers refused. They could not fight a war without weapons. Some even joined the rebels. The Empire was breaking from the inside. Back on the Dauntless, Mason watched the growth of the rebellions on his map. 36 worlds rising. Aaron said, "More every hour." He turned to his crew. "We are not just breaking their fleet," Mason said. "We are breaking their will." "But what if they fight back?" one crew member asked. Mason smiled faintly. "They cannot fight what they cannot control." "Do we have any idea what the Emperor will do next?" another asked. Mason shook his head. "He is angry and desperate. We must be ready for anything." Meanwhile, on the Emperor's throne world, Valak sat once again. The palace was dark. The air heavy. His advisors had given him no good news. He was alone in his fear. He realized now that his mistake was pride. He had ignored Earth for too long. He thought they were weak, slow, and unworthy of respect. But the humans had shown him otherwise. They had won with silence. They had won with minds, not guns. And the Empire was no longer an empire. Valak closed his eyes. For the first time in his life, he felt powerless. The Torcan Empire was breaking apart like a fragile glass. Across the stars, ships drifted lifeless. Systems once controlled by proud commanders now answered only to silence. The Emperor's power was gone, but the galaxy was watching. The message from Earth was about to be heard. Inside the Dauntless, Commander Mason prepared for the final act. He stood before the main console, his face calm and serious. Around him, the crew worked quietly. They knew this moment was the last step to end a war without war. Mason looked at the screen showing dozens of worlds now free from Torcan rule. He felt a strange mix of sadness and hope. "We will send the message," he said. "It must reach everyone." Aaron nodded. "Broadcast channels are open. The galaxy is ready." Mason took a deep breath. "Then let them hear the truth. On thousands of planets, in cities, and villages, beings of many races stopped their daily lives. Screens flickered on. Holograms appeared. Commander Mason's calm voice echoed across the stars. "People of the galaxy, I am Mason, commander of the ship Earth calls the Dauntless." He spoke slowly, clearly, with a voice that carried strength without anger. "The Torcan Empire came to Earth with threats and weapons. They believed one world was weak. But Earth did not send armies. We sent one ship with a different plan. We used our minds, our technology, and our will to stop an empire without bloodshed. Your systems are now free from control. Your slaves are free. Do not fear us. We are not conquerors. We are guardians. We have shown that power built on cruelty will fall." Mason's eyes shone with quiet fire. "Let this be a new beginning. A galaxy where strength protects, not destroys." Across the galaxy, millions listened. Some were shocked. Others were hopeful. Rebels smiled. Governors whispered. The message was clear. The Torcan Empire was finished, and Earth was a new power. Back on the Dauntless, The crew waited. They knew this was not the end. The galaxy was large and dangerous. Many would not accept the change easily. But for now, a great silence settled. Mason looked at the stars. He spoke softly. Humanity did not come to fight. We came to remind. Strength is not weapons. Strength is purpose. The crew nodded. They were ready for what came next. Far away, on a small world, a child looked up at the stars. He held a small book in his hands. It was a story about a ship that stopped an empire. His mother smiled. The humans showed us something new, she said. The child's eyes shone. Maybe one day, we will be brave like them. And the stars above twinkled, as if listening. The stars above the throne world had never seemed so quiet. Emperor Volok sat alone in the vast chamber that once echoed with orders and power. Now, silence filled the space. His empire, once feared across galaxies, was broken. Ships drifted, systems failed, and the people he ruled no longer obeyed. For the first time in his life, Volok felt the weight of defeat, not from weapons, but from something stronger. From ideas. From unity. From hope. Far from the throne world. The Dauntless sailed through the quiet void. Commander Mason stood on the bridge, watching the endless stars. The mission was complete. Not a single shot had been fired to destroy the enemy. No cities were burned. No people were killed. Instead, an empire had fallen because of wisdom and will. Mason's crew gathered around him. They had risked everything for this moment. Today, Mason said, we show the galaxy what humanity can be. He smiled softly. Not conquerors, not destroyers, protectors. The crew nodded, proud but humble. They had changed history. Back on Earth, the news was spreading. People gathered in squares. Watching the broadcasts, they cheered not for war, but for peace. For the first time, humanity stood as a beacon of light in the dark vastness of space. The defense chief spoke on live broadcast. We have faced the greatest threat the galaxy has known, but we have won through unity, intelligence, and courage. The future is ours to build. Her words inspired millions. Across the galaxy, former slaves celebrated. New leaders rose from the ashes. Old enemies made peace. The message from the Dauntless had changed minds and hearts. The Torcan Empire's fall was not just a military event. It was a moment of awakening. On a small farm, a boy looked up at the night sky. His grandfather told stories of the great ship. Humans taught the galaxy a lesson. He said, power is not in weapons, but in the strength of the spirit. The boy smiled. He dreamed of joining the stars, of being part of a future where peace ruled. In the years that followed, Earth helped rebuild. They sent ships with food, medicine, and knowledge. They shared technology that healed wounds and made lives better. No force was forced upon others. Instead, Earth offered friendship, and slowly, the galaxy began to change. Emperor Volok disappeared from the throne world. No one knew where he went. Some said he had died, others believed he left to learn from his defeat. But the empire he once ruled was no more. In its place, new alliances formed, new worlds joined hands. The future was uncertain, but it was hopeful. Back on the Dauntless, Mason looked at a message from Earth. It read simply, thank you. You showed us the way. He turned to his crew. We are not heroes, he said. We are the first step. The stars outside seemed to shine brighter. The human ship moved forward into a new dawn.